Is it really a surprise to me that they're taking you seriously? I always had the very best seats, now they're calling you off of the streets. Your face is now a sharp angel, and all these women are in shock and awe. That such a nice guy could be so unrefined. It's like he makes you take a curse, and what you leave will be what's worse.
Hey, gamers, welcome to episode 29 of Cinema Curse. Tonight, I was practicing this in the car earlier. Maresy dotes and dozy dotes and little lambsy divey, a kiddly divey too, wouldn't you? Oh, maresy dotes and dozy dotes and little lambsy divey, a kiddly divey too, wouldn't you? It's
If the words sound clear or funny to you,
a little bit jumbled and jivey. Just say, mares eat oats and does eat oats, and little lambs eat ivy. Yeah, what was I talking about? It's Twin Peaks. We're talking about Twin Peaks again. Episodes 8 through 11. I'm your wicked game master, Lloyd Crews, the Joey Chestnut of talking about movies. Edwin Gomez couldn't make it. He was too busy selling shoes. But who is with us?
He tried to sell me a pair earlier. Actually, it was strange. They look like Nikes, but I don't know if they really were. So, hey, it's Brian. What's up, guys?
the shoes I bought from Edwin were completely gold, and he sold me a Bible with them. I think I might be supporting the Trump.
Oh shit! It has the Constitution mixed in. Crazy.
Yeah. But mostly it says LOL over like half the Bill of Rights. It's very strange.
There you go. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
That's Scott.
Anyways, that's
topical. Always
Exactly.
topical here on Cinema Curse. Topical and political.
I genuinely think about. I wish I would have bought one of those Trump NFTs.
Why?
Of any of them, that's the one.
To immediately flip it, because there was a period. I mean, it's like it's that bit in the new Dune movie where he's like, "There's a narrow path where we make our way through," and there's a narrow path there where I could have made a lot of money.
I don't know. I don't even know if there ever was.
I think there was immediately after, when it first went out, it was normal price. Immediately became expensive. I'm sure a week later it crashed. But
yeah, you would imagine
That's the thing. At least with the shoes in the Bible, you can physically always have this horrible thing with you.
Yeah. I want to say.
I bet those shoes fall apart in a week.
I'm
You
sure.
get them wet. You get them wet,
week.
and they'll be gone.
Them wet, and they just
for the week.
They expand like those foam dinosaurs you put in the tub.
Yeah.
As soon as you tie the laces, they just snap off.
I want to say thank you to Marina Sakamoto and her band Shunkin for the use of their song Curse for our opening credits. That's on the album EP, She Nods. It's not an album, sorry. It's been 147 days since the strike ended and the AMPTP still sucks. And how's everybody doing?
Good.
Doing real good, yeah. Just spent some time at the Vista Theater in the Video Archive Cinema. It's a pretty cool new theater we got here in LA.
Nice.
So.
It's the opening day, right? That's the opening.
Yesterday was. Opening.
Copy. Okay.
Yeah. So today was the second screening. Nice. First day they did 16 millimeter. Yesterday was VHS.
So I guess the Vista is no longer a single screen theater.
They no longer are.
No, they can no longer claim that.
It's 1 in 8.
1.5. Yeah. Might be. Yeah.
Because it's 16 seats, so compared to 480.
Yeah.
something like that. 380, 480, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's like a 30th. So
Yeah, the 30th, even more so. Yeah.
Let's talk about Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
I couldn't find jokey images for every episode last time, so I just
That's
resorted to finding like a good screenshot that I liked.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, episode 8, season 2, part 1. I mean, that's a big thing to talk about. Is this we're now in season 2, and it's a little more exaggerated. Like I would say, like both the comedy and the horror mystical stuff. But this is still, I always associate the first season and these first 9 episodes as like the first era of Twin Peaks.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is my favorite era of Twin Peaks. I love the return, to be fair, and I understand why people like it more, and I like it almost as much. But there's something about these first 16 episodes that's just...
I mean, it's character development is the biggest thing, because you spend season 1 sort of really growing with everybody, and then it's just like everybody gets to then have fun in what they're doing.
Yeah,
you know, and it's in these first 4 episodes that we watched, very indicative of that. Obviously, with all the different sub characters that we met, and
it's been a while since I've like watched this, so I forgot what was season 1 and what was season 2. And like when season 1 ended, when it did, I was like, oh wow! Like I was odd, but I listened to you guys the last episode when you talked about that, and like you said, season 1 really is kind of the warm up. It introduces you to all the characters, and you fall in love with the characters in the town. And you know, like I was saying, how I could watching that first season, I could kind of see how, like, okay, what they were trying to do with the show, and like never revealing who Laura's killer was. And it was just like, it was just a soap opera about this town. And like finding the killer was why Coop was there. But like, I became so obsessed with the answer that like, I
actually sent Connor a clip the other day, and I don't know, we posted or something, Connor, but like, it's really cool. It's just a reaction video, like a news report of people who are getting ready for parties at the finale night of first season. And it was like really involved. It was like completely different walks of life, all ready to watch it. And, you know, you could tell the love for the characters, but everybody had like their guesses of who did it. And the, you know, that kind of thing. And it was just like, by the end of
all
it,
these people dressed up, there was a person like wrapped up in plastic.
In plastic, like Laura.
It was great. It's hard to think about now, but like this show was Game of Thrones level zeitgeist capturing. Like
it was something I remembered, because I was like, you know, those 10, 11, 12, so it wasn't like I was watching it then, but I remember it just being around people I was around talking about it. So Twin Peaks was always the thing I was like, oh, it's that weird show that I knew it as until I it's that great weird show is what I later discovered.
And back then there was definitely more of a like central singular American zeitgeist. Back before Obama came and divided us.
Right. There were 4 channels and 3. Like this was 91.
Okay,
so Fox would have been around, but like showing Married with Children and like.
This is when they were in there, they're super. We're trying to get away with everything. We're the cool guys.
But ABC was rather very legit, and so this was a huge show. But anyways, like it was interesting to think what like, not if let's say Fire Walk with Me never happened and The Return never happened. I wonder what like season 6 of the show would have looked like, and I could kind of see what they were going for in that first season of like just weirdness, and like essentially it's about a small town with darkness underneath it.
It's such a setup that you're able to do so much work off of what the core creates in that first season. So to answer that, it could have gone off the rails in so many wild ways.
Because like other than I'd say like the 3rd episode when we go to the Red Room in the first season, it's not all that, for lack of a better phrase, Twin Peaksy.
No, I mean, it's super typical cops and bad guy.
It's a mixture of that and like just soap opera, teen drama stuff, you know.
Totally.
Which then brings us to the season premiere of season 2.
Well, actually, what ends us, and the biggest thing, and actually to hark back to that whole thing with, you know, because everybody watching it at this watch party, they get their final shot. Is Coop getting shot? They were pissed off. I mean, they're like, I feel like I'm being gypped and ripped off, and blah. They were like legit angry.
And what's fucking crazy too is that I'm pretty sure at that point the show had already been renewed for a 2nd season. and it was like
Yeah.
probably going to premiere in like 2 to 3 months. And
and that's the thing.
Chatter.
Like, had these people not seen TV before? Like David Lynch did not invent the cliffhanger. Like,
no, but I think, like you said, when there's so much minimal stuff, you have it almost becomes one giant canon effect, because like everybody's focused on this one little thing. That even if you have the variety of shows, it's like, no, that's still the Twin Peaks world. It's not the oversaturation that we have now, where it's like trying to get. It's almost a bigger achievement to get people on Game of Thrones level now.
Oh, absolutely. But like, I guess I could just like, I understand thinking you were gonna get that answer, but I could also see like after 7 episodes in, and I guess maybe TV was different back then, but like, oh, we're not gonna get that. Like, there's gonna be a second season with more twists and turns and stuff. Like, But people were pretty. I do remember hearing about that. That like, that's why ABC panicked, and we'll get to that. Yeah. But
that's a testament to the characters and everything, because obviously America, they love everybody loved and fell in love with Cooper, because when you have that happen at the end, if there wasn't a character that you fell in love with, oh man, that guy died, it wouldn't have been that big, but it was like a shock because it's Coop. Yeah, and then we open into season 2.
Yeah, this season definitely more. I wrote down this at the top of my notes for this episode, and this season is the line whenever they cut to the RR diner for the first time, and they just have that close up of the guy going, "Hot damn, that pie is good," which is like such a
that is the way it's mixed. It's so on top of that sequence of that scene. It's out of place. It doesn't fit, but it does.
This is a top tier ep. I think this is like one of my favorite episodes of the show.
Oh yeah, this is almost it rivals the initial pilot, especially with runtime and then the amount of information we get.
Yeah, and just some of the sequences, and then the one other thing I want to say before we get to like my favorite bit and this shit that's happening behind me right now, which is maybe one of my favorite.
It's so good. That's when it started to get to me for me weird.
Well, that's was like the season 1 might have been the introduction, but right away in season 2, it's like welcome to Twin Peaks.
It's a little bit. It reminds me of like it's like the first episode of the second season of Community. If where that one is like so much like more nuts than like most of the previous season. You're like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny because I'm rewatching that now, and I do get that feeling. Where like in the first season they never leave the campus, and so like, and which I guess Dan Harmon like mandated that was the like we're going to learn the characters and we're going to learn this environment here of Greendale, and so like it really does lay down the groundwork that allows the crazy episodes later.
And then also a big change starting now is Kimmy Robertson was promoted from like co-starring to main cast. She's the only one in the original show who got like bumped up, which is interesting. We'll see in a couple.
It makes sense because you can kind of write that character as like a placeholder, and I'm sure that's what they kind of did, and then it took off obviously with how it's what made the Lucy and Andy thing is its own just arc that rolls through the whole time. It's just great.
But Andy wasn't bumped up to main cast. Andy was kept in the second because there's like a couple of layers. There's like the main in the titles, and then there's the second main afterwards. And then there's guest starring and then like co-starring or something, and then a couple other things.
That's very interesting. Like that's just how you get paid, and like what you build and what you could get cast in the future. Like I actors friends and stuff, and they talk about how like sometimes like the pay isn't that good, like they have a co-starring part and the pay isn't that great, and they're like, I'll do it if you give me a guest starring credit, like the pay will be the same, but I just need that credit. And sometimes that'll work, and then just because that are like, oh, they've been a guest star, that's bump a little bit. Special guest star would be if they got like a movie star to be in an episode, something like that.
That's like
that's how that that's the hierarchy of credits.
I love that. That's a crazy.
It's funny. So this sequence that opens the episode, and we cut away from it a couple of times, but I think we should talk about it in whole. Like I've done with the other episodes, I've kind of grouped storylines together.
Same.
In my notes. What's funny is my favorite part of the sequence is actually before the actual giant shows up.
Oh,
I think the old man is one of the funniest bits in the show when he does the like slow wink and thumbs up, and then he leaves, and then he comes back and does it again. That's so funny. It's like one of the fucking funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
literally my first note from that episode is the milk will get cold on you. Like the way that's just delivered, everything about that sequence is like, this is fucking weird. And weird in a way that's like not what people think of when you think of weird. It was just like different in this great, weird, normal way.
One of those actors that Lynch got, like the way that guy delivers those lines, like there's no way you can plan that.
Oh no.
And I'm just thinking like those people that were so angry at the season finale and then finally tune in, and that's the first scene they get. Like
it really does. It's. I mean, I'll say this, Scott, buckle up for the return because.
Look.
There's a reason I keep saying like we got to do it together because it is just like bonkers in just like wild ways.
Lynch loves pulling just a little prank on his audience. He's a little scamp.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he did the other day. I think he did the April Fool's. The colorized version of Eraserhead is coming out.
Okay.
He did that on his Twitter. I think the other day. I think he's done it a few different times, but like, makes the typical meltdown. That's Lynch, but that's the humor. Honestly, that's why like. If the return, we'll go back to it in a sec, is like his final biggest thing we get, it's a love letter, man. It really is. And I think that like of course I want to see anything and everything that man ever will do, but I am very content with what we got in the return.
It's a grand swan song.
Yeah,
I think so, in the most Lynchian way for sure.
Yeah. It's great. But we're not fucking talking about that. But the old man, I think...
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
It's that good.
The old man is very much so... I know, I wish Bobby was here. Bobby couldn't make it tonight, and he was on the last one. And it's funny because, Bobby has done a lot of content creation online. And especially 10 years or so ago when he started pivoting... I could have the timeline fucked up, I'm sure, so sue me. But like 10 or so years ago when he started pivoting to doing more live action stuff instead of the claymation stuff he had first done, I think a lot of his stuff got compared to like Tim and Eric, who were kind of just coming up and starting. And he would always say like he really likes them, but like it's like this shit, like the old man, that. And I think about that a lot. Like that's such a weird... Not so much the digital editing, even though that also comes into play later with Lynch and even Twin Peaks, but like that kind of like tone and like
just awkwardness.
Yeah.
And the non-actors
it's like
stuff.
Like what Yorgos Lanthimos got across in like Killing of a Sacred Deer. Like, everything's just a little off in a way, and I love that about.
Yeah. But then the giant shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And we obviously have seen enough to know a little more about the lore going on here, but we won't talk about it yet. Here he is. It's him right here. And he gives 3 clues to Coop. A man in a smiling bag, which is later solved, is the body of Jacques Renault, right? And in the body bag, the owls are not what they seem, and without chemicals.
We got the first time we got that line.
The owls are not what they seem. And then he takes his ring and he gives another clue, Leo locked inside a hungry horse, which Andy solves. And it ends up absolving Leo at least of being the sort of like serial killer who's like leaving the letters under people's fingernails and stuff because of the Teresa Banks thing.
Right. And let me also just say the first time the owls that owls are not with the same thing since Margaret initially said it. Correct.
What was that?
I'm just saying that that owl statement, that's the first time it came up since Margaret initially said it.
Yeah.
Last episode. That's what I meant by that. Yeah.
Yeah. Get your fucking shit straight, Brian.
I just want to be yelled at for like that shit, because that's like the basic one.
Yeah, that's a great line. That is like.
But that's kind of how obsessed we kind of all are with this. This has been just still a part of our lives for so many years that it is that kind of little thing that you're like, no, I know,
I have the show spends a lot of this rest of this episode, not all of it. There's a lot of really great stuff. I have like 5 whole big sections, but it spends a lot of the rest of the time also catching Coop and Harry up to where the audience is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where like there's a lot of scenes in this episode of either recapping things or having Coop and Harry discover something that we already know just so that they can be on the same outpages us when it comes to the
Yeah.
investigations.
Which is a great way of doing that. You know, I mean, instead of having those like 20 seconds, previously on that kind of thing, you know, it was great. And I love Coop's face as he's just sitting in the hospital bed, just looking up, going like, "Time to get back to work."
Yeah. How long have I been?
How long have we been out?
Yeah. That was great.
And like even the doctor's just like, "Oh yeah, this is busier than it's been since the 50s."
I only wish that when Lucy and Andy were in, like he wouldn't go, "Well, some things haven't changed," you know, kind of thing. Because it was just like that was the one thing that's kept consistently with when he woke up to. And I also love his sort of discovery of, and it kind of comes into play after the giant stuff with the Coop having that thought of it's not so bad as long as you keep the fear outside.
Yeah, that's
like that
line.
Whole thing. You know, that was a great line. Yeah.
But once Coop is saved, because he was on the phone with Andy, so they hear the gunshot and come to get him. Yeah. I have this divided up into sections and then like an ending section, but the first smallest one is we get a little more One-Eyed Jack stuff, not a whole lot.
Yeah.
Considering it's a double episode. Basically, Audrey is able to push away her father without her father figuring out that she's there, and then she wants to leave, but we start it was like one of the main things we were talking about before we started recording this was that they really draw the Audrey is captured by Blackie up at One-Eyed Jack storyline out for a while. I'm pretty sure
long time,
like we aren't even going to resolve it tonight. Like it's going to be I think is the next episode the one where they have
the next one's that's the next one because it's when Coop and Harry team up. But yeah, which is honestly it's such a good episode. I think I'm going to watch it after this. Just start ahead of the next round because that's like you said, these beginning episodes it gets tough to not want to just rock through them.
Yeah.
It'll get a lot easier pretty soon.
That's what I'm afraid of is when we have to do those episodes. You know,
like I think you said it earlier. Like if you gotta love Twin Peaks at its worst to appreciate it at its best.
Yeah, it's that Marilyn Monroe quote. Next little storyline I got here: the Palmers. Maddie and Sarah are hanging out, and Maddie has a vision of blood on the rug, which we can't. Because of how we're treating spoilers and not talking about things that happen in the future, this is like the 5th time I've watched this, and I finally got what was going on there. I was like, oh, I understand what this scene is telegraphing. So, Scott, Brian, you know what I'm talking about, right? You know, Scott, you know what I'm talking about?
It's been a minute.
Okay.
So,
well, remember that. Keep that in the back of your brain for the next set of episodes.
Okay.
And then Leland has turned a corner, seemingly, with his mourning of Laura, and he has that great. He's singing Mairzy Doats. His hair's gone white, and him and the Horn Brothers do that incredible dance.
When the Horn Brothers get together, I mean, like you see Jerry sort of jump, and you're like, "Wait, what are they doing?" And then all of a sudden it goes fucking chaos with this dance. Ben's on his desk. It's just mayhem.
You wouldn't think they'd be happy to see him back, and yet like the first time they're just dancing on the desk, like that's
what I thought. When Jerry, when he sort of like goes forward, you're like, are they gonna like fight? Is it gonna be this thing? And then it's like, nope, not at all. It turns into just wild stuff.
That image, that dance is one of the gifs I used for the opening of this episode.
It's so good.
That's the Palmer's stuff. I've got a section of for Donna. Weirdly, I think this jokey stuff is when I like Donna the most in a weird way.
Because she's the only one who's kind of being serious all the time.
Yeah, like I love
like everything.
I think my favorite bit with Donna in the entire show is in this episode. Her exchange with James when he's like, "When did you start smoking?" I smoke every once in a while. Helps
the way
relieve
that
tension.
Whole sequence played out.
Yeah.
Like at first you're like, wait. Like I even think I wrote down "Cool Girl Donna" because that was just like what played out.
But just the way
it was so strange
that like the comedy of that exchange of like, you know, when you start smoking, it helps relieve stress. When did you get so tense? When I started smoking. And she says that. Almost like she reminds me of like Michael Showalter in like a Wet Hot American Summer movie or something.
Oh yeah. It is such an interesting delivery,
And another delivery that always sticks into my head is Cheryl Lee earlier in the episode when she's talking. I don't know why I had this under Donna. This should have been under the Palmer section. But when she's talking to Donna, so that's why I have it here. She's like, Uncle Leland's hair turned white. And her like facial expressions kill me. But let's see. We get some good sheriff's department stuff. Mike the Shoe.
We get the return of Albert. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Albert.
Mike the Shoes, yep.
Mike the Shoe Salesman. Lucy and Andy look at porn. Albert comes back.
The way he came back was just he just came back and like Andy had like kicked that board and smashed into his forehead. Yeah. And then like Albert's just just staring there with he's got his assistants with him, and then Harry and they all come out, and it's just like this typical Andy scene. Yeah. Perfect intro for Albert to be like, these hayseeds.
Yeah, another fine day in Twin Peaks, or another fine day in law enforcement.
And then it turns into Albert actually, showing, he actually was wrong, for calling him out because Andy just stumbled upon cocaine and money under the floorboard, or these decking floorboard things.
Yeah, and then later in the episode, Andy dresses down Albert and which makes Lucy horny. So much of the Andy Lucy stuff is just Andy constantly having to prove his virility.
Oh yeah, I mean, even just to not to skip ahead and just relate it. I mean, even the biggest things, the gripes that Lucy's on about is that Andy doesn't wear a sports jacket, or he doesn't take care of his car. Yeah. You're like, oh, that's where we're at, huh? Those are the hills.
We get a sort of recap of stuff, and then the other thing we get over at the sheriff's department is James setting up the line where Laura would tell him, like, would you want to play with fire, little boy? Yeah. You want to play with Bob?
Yeah.
We get some stuff at the hospital throughout the episode. Specifically, there's a runner about the hospital food. It feels very Jerry Seinfeld. Jack Nance has a great moment with it.
The everything I will say about that sequence with the sound design was fantastic, and it gave the Eraserhead industrial sounds going through the hospital room. The hallways, you could hear that just ringing through, and then the bubbling weirdness of that food made it feel like toxic waste. Yeah, and it was a great sequence for like the sound design of it alone.
I will say there are like plenty of great directors on the show, but there is just something different when Lynch is doing it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
100%.
It's the vision of like, I kind of can picture all this where it's not quite being stemmed along the way,
Yeah, they just hit a little different.
Definitely. I 100% agree. I mean, I think there are certain, I really like Leslie, because we're talking about 4 episodes tonight, and the first 2 Lynch directed. Yep. And then the third one, Leslie Linka Glatter directed, and I think she's really great also. I think she's one of the better directors the show has.
Sure.
And there's part of me that sometimes there's like shots in episodes and I'm wondering, like, did David like write down this like idea? In the 4th episode when it opens with the like that long like zoom out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he is a producer, so like he can just say that this is how it starts,
I mean, writer as well. I mean, that's the whole thing. You're even though he's not directing, it's sort of like he's chain smoking along, looking at every sequence, I'm sure, along the way. Yeah. Especially for that. He might have ducked out on a few of the middle season episodes, but obviously he was on. I'm sure he was a part of everything in these initials.
Yeah.
We also get Bobby and Shelley, a little bit of them up at the hospital, which I watching this, I had the realization that if this was a show that aired when Tumblr was big, that Tumblr would be really into Bobby and Shelley and Norma.
Yeah,
and Ed.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Good call.
Yeah.
And then we get some good Ed and Nadine backstory stuff. The stuff about him and his relationship with Norma.
It's interesting starting to piece it back together, and you're realizing like it almost reaffirms how small the community is. Like with these episodes, like obviously you have Nadine and Ed. Like you start piecing it together, and you see like, oh, these go back 20 years. This is how they kind of all were doing things, and it's interesting.
This is expanded in the books. It's probably the most interesting stuff in the books, honestly. From my memory, is like the fact that all these dudes, like Hank and Harry, were friends in high school, you know, and
yeah.
Yeah, they talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, and
and I'm
we
sorry.
even find out.
Wait, there's books?
there's a handful of books.
It's a couple like expanded things. Mark Frost, I think, released the latest one, didn't he?
There were two that came out around the return, one right before and one right after, and they were both written by Mark Frost, and they're both worth checking out. I don't know how, like, I mean, you can take them as canonical or not, but at the very least, I would say on a media level, they're really cool because they're a cool. They're made less like a normal. They're not a novel, so to speak. They're like a collection of documents almost.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool. And so like the first one is about the history of Twin Peaks, and so it kind of goes into like what happened when like the settlers were there, and then all these like stories about people when they were kids, and like the history and things like that. And then the later one was like the final dossier or something like that.
Yeah, I actually have the final dossier for sure.
And that one is like supposed to have been basically like a dossier curated by a character who's in the Return, who's over the Return, like a character you wouldn't know until then. And it's the I forget her name, Brian. It's not like a spoiler. It's basically David Lynch's Gordon Cole has like a Girl Friday, so to speak, and it's her.
Yeah.
And she's assembled this like dossier of documents related to like the Return.
And that's the thing. We're not finding out things that are like changed, like, whoa, this changed everything. It's like more expansive as far as like, what did some of these other things have? You know,
I get it. It's world building.
Other missing pieces, totally.
Yeah.
And I remember this because that was what was so special about the Return. It was like this chaotic, like, all in on Twin Peaks and David Lynch land. Like that was when he was still doing the David Lynch Film Festival thing. I forget some destruction. I forget the name of the festival, but he'd run it down at the Ace Theater for like a weekend, and it was just like they had like VR rooms and all this shit that was so cool that it was special to be a part of that. And I think with these books, like everybody was reading and trying to get any little bits they could, you know, with the Return coming. So.
That kind of reminds me of Parks and Recreation, a show very much like Twin Peaks. But there's there's an episode where like Leslie makes like a history of what was the town in
Pawnee.
Pawnee. Yeah, Pawnee. Yeah. She makes a history of Pawnee, and you could buy that book, and I did. And it's just like a very funny.
Oh yeah.
Like, they did that with the third Ant-Man movie. You know how Scott has a book that he's selling at the beginning? You can buy that book.
That's funny.
It's an actual book?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't know. It's probably sucks, but
yeah.
Who wrote it?
I have no idea.
I gotta look
funny.
this. No, I gotta.
It'd be great if it was like weird fan fiction. They were like, yeah, fuck it, go for it.
Before we get to, there's like 3 big ending sequences in this episode, but there's one other scene before we get to those that I want to talk about, and it's maybe one of my favorite scenes. This is like a top 10 scene in the show for me, is Major Briggs and Bobby at the diner, and his speech where it seems like for the first time ever has opened up to his son and really told his son truly the depths of his love. And or at the very least, maybe because of recent events, this is the first time Bobby has been receptive to it. And it's especially gratifying knowing I love Bobby. Bobby is like one of my favorite characters, especially I love what they did with him in The Return. It's
of course.
So good. And this feels like it's like a seed for that. Like obviously it's not, because how could they have known? But stuff like this feels like a seed for that, and he's
likable. He's likable right away. Like you know how Bobby was very like at the beginning, like those first couple of episodes, you're like, dude, this guy's he could be the biggest piece of shit ever, especially when he was what's his name, his buddy, who they kind of seemingly wrote out. Mike, they kind of wrote out. It seemed. Because the two of them together, especially, were so toxic. But then once you started seeing Bobby for like, this dude just like this sweet, vulnerable dude who just like likes to be a dick, you know, like because that's how he has to personify himself. Because of his insecurity, and that's like that's why, especially with how it progresses, you're like, nah, he's a good dude, you know.
Yeah,
he's just sort of got some interesting moral choices, but you know.
Yeah.
We're in Lynchland.
And we find out that the mayor's job is classified.
Yes.
Yeah.
We get 3 great ending sequences. First, we get a dinner party hosted by the Haywards, where they've invited the Palmers, including Maddie, over. Little Alia from Dune shows up and does a show.
Mm-hmm.
Harriet reads a poem about Laura, and then Leland, tries to sing "Get Happy" and goes fucking manic and passes out.
I just love that. I love the girl. She was just keeping up tempo somehow with Leland's manic. Like I was trying to figure. I'm like, who's leading who in this? And I'm like, nope. Somehow Leland's doing it, and she's just picking up the vibe.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The tempo just was. It was a weird, fantastic.
Often
all together.
The end credits are usually the picture of Laura, but I do like occasionally it's not. And in this case, it was her on piano again, and I thought that was a good choice.
They kind of do that with the return with one particular famous sequence.
Yeah, the return.
The
return. This is a mild spoiler for the return, Scott, but this is like a structural thing. Is that I don't know how many. I would guess most. Definitely more than half of the episodes of the return end with they cut to the Roadhouse, and
the Roadhouse,
a real band is playing on stage, and Lynch is filming it like a concert almost, and then the credits roll.
But with the cast of literally the Roadhouse. Yeah. And I remember one
like the cast just hanging out.
No, maybe if somebody was there because
like the characters characters that wouldn't be there weren't.
Yeah. It's not like
I actually just meant like it's like a behind the scene everyone hanging out.
Oh no, it's just like an addition of like what's happening on a Friday night at the Roadhouse, and then it'll be like Nine Inch Nails were one of them, and that is the absolute. That's the episode 8. Yeah. Beginning of beautifulness, amazingness, but they get the intro of the Nine Inch Nails, which was great.
But then there are some episodes. There's a handful of episodes, not many, that end with like something else.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's one that I just particularly was just a nice, soothing one. It could just be like a nice. We had a screensaver you just have for like Christmas. Those people who do the U-logs. I just want a U-log of some broom action.
Yeah, that's a good one. Isn't the broom isn't the end credits though? That just plays out that whole scene.
But doesn't it go after that, or am I having like one of those Mandela effect things?
No, they troll you. We gotta talk about this on the return because
I'm sorry. Like this is what I haven't done it in a really long time, and this is why honestly, Scott, I know we keep saying it, but I'm stoked to get to the return.
I can't wait.
This shit.
That's why
it's so good, man.
We might have to pick up the pace on these, maybe twice a month.
That's what I'm saying. Like seriously, can we just do one podcast on the middle chunk of it, and then just one to wrap it up, basically?
Yeah, possibly. We'll see. Another ending scene.
Twin Peaks, the bullshit.
Tune in.
Coop tries to go to sleep. Audrey prays, and the giant returns and gives advice about the third man, and Coop forgot something. And then the actual last scene, Ronette in the hospital awakens and remembers, and it's fucking spooky as hell. And it's like the first... Yeah. I feel like this is the first time we've gotten a real, big dose of Bob. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I wrote Bob marked right at the end of that as my last note. It's just Bob.
We saw him kind of crouching in the one episode, but it was just like.
Well, you know what's funny is that's actually the way they discovered that is he was just not supposed to be that involved, I guess, but they were in the first few episodes. He was messing around in the bed, I guess, and that's when he became the presence, I guess, of what he became.
It's not even the bed shot. It's a shot. It's like a mirror shot.
It's a mirror. That's right. The mirror.
He was like a sound guy. No, the bed shot was done intentionally.
Okay, that's what it was. The mirror to the bed shot. Yeah.
And he's like a makeups guy or a set guy or a sound guy or lighting guy or something like that. And I love
lighting. Yeah.
This last scene is really good. I remember I showed my mom the first 16 episodes of Twin Peaks. Once the killer stuff was resolved, I was like, you don't need to see the rest of this. You're not gonna like Firewalk with Me. You're not gonna like any of the rest of it. We're just gonna leave it there. And to be fair, you can kind of do that. I would argue that you could.
I could say that would be a show.
Yeah.
Not quite Twin Peaks, but you got an experience.
Yeah.
It's one of those. It's I'm fine with this world, but I don't care to let it grow. I'm not buying those books, you know.
This episode ending really freaked out my mom. I remember she was like, I don't
Sure.
like this."
It's like this imagery.
Go ahead.
I was going to say this imagery is what I think of when I think of Fire Walk with Me, like the way that last shot kind of looked, like just tonally. You know, that's the stuff that like that's the horror that pulls out, especially on display in Fire Walk with Me.
Getting back to our favorite fans, the ones who were angry at the finale.
Yeah.
Like if they were still like very confused and upset about how the episode started with like goofiness, I have to imagine they were like back on board and like, "Ooh, we're back, baby!" With the way this episode ended. And honestly, I was like, right. I was shocked. I was like, "Man, I can't believe this is on network television."
Yeah,
I know. In the early 90s, like just what? And I guess it is only one scene, and I gotta say, it's not anything like graphic or like you could put it on television, you know what I mean? But it's just the intensity of it.
Thematically upsetting scene.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and viscerally upsetting in a way that like gore and wouldn't necessarily get to.
You don't need jump scares and like true horror elements for it. Like that's what the brilliance of Lynch is just the tone and that the visual effect can make it. And again, the sound design, these things, they make it the horror and the real that it is. So that's why it worked for network TV as far as a censorship standard. But really fuck with your senses, you know?
Yeah, it reminds me of reading about George Miller and like having to like edit one of his movies and stuff, and they're like, "Well, it's like." He goes, "I don't know what you want me to cut," and they're like, "It just can't be this intense."
Yeah,
and it's like I don't. That's the movie. I'm like I can't.
They also cut that shit to no sound, by the way, like Fury Road. Just cut without like that. Isn't that insane?
Sure.
Like how? What doing sound to that must have done? It's insane to me.
Let's move on to episode 9.
We're only on the second one we did. Jesus.
Yeah, but to be fair,
there was a lot in episode 1.
That was a long one. Yeah, that was
absolutely.
It's double length. When we're halfway through this episode, we're halfway through the whole.
We're already.
So
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I even watched this just one night because it felt like that. Like,
I had forgotten as long as it was, and I sat down and watched it. And after watching that, I was like, actually, I'm good. I'll watch the other ones tomorrow.
Yeah. And which is great because even watching it on TV, that was what the effect probably was supposed to be. Like, all right, we're going to throw you all over the place.
Exactly. Welcome back. Yeah, welcome back.
Totally.
And these Lynch episodes are a little denser, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, this episode starts with breakfast at the Great Northern. We get the first mention of Wyndham Earl. Albert has the great line, your former partner flew the coop. But I don't know if
I love Albert so much.
The Wyndham Earl stuff, I don't know if it pays off for a long time.
It doesn't. I actually was surprised hearing it that early again.
Yeah. It's weird how early certain things are set up. When you rewatch it, you're like, oh, they did.
You almost wonder, like, yeah.
We get the Meals on Wheels sequence where Harold Smith is mentioned, but more importantly, we get the old woman and Minnie Lynch, little baby David Lynch.
We get another creation that just.
She seemed like a very nice girl.
So
man,
like that is literally, I can hear Lynch saying that to that kid. Now this is how you're gonna, like it's amazing. Lynch
that is his son.
His voice.
Oh, is it?
That's right. Yes,
it's one of his kids.
Right.
He has many children. He's like he's a quiverful guy.
He is. That's why he got into TM.
He doesn't like wrapping it up.
TM helped.
So and it's our first introduction of creamed corn, which becomes
creamed corn
weirdly important as the series. As
you know, what's amazing watching this on the Zeta A box set. It comes with the Log Lady intros.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And in this episode, she starts talking about cream corn in the intro and stuff. It's just like, that's right.
Yeah.
Those intros have been real interesting to rewatch and just be like, what are those filmed for again? Was that for like repeat?
I think those might have been filmed for the original release, honestly. Like, I think they might have been.
The original VHS probably,
Yeah. No, like, I think they aired
like when
for television? The show aired
for television?
For the first time. I think so.
Oh,
okay.
I could be wrong.
I wasn't sure if that's how it worked. Because it's not a part of like the episode on the disc.
Yeah.
Like you can play it.
Mhm.
You either have to choose to play it with it or not. Like it's same because it also comes with all the previously on and like next time on Twin Peaks.
Okay, so here's what it was with that. So initial airing, the Log Lady introduction was not part of the ABC broadcast. They were added in when the show rebroadcasts on the Bravo cable network in the US.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people watched it that way because I remember the teacher in high
Yeah.
school that introduced me to Twin Peaks.
I could see that because I mean, if you weren't on board the first, if you missed it the first time, this wasn't a time when like the DVD, TV wasn't as readily available as it is now.
The home video and DVD stuff is when that kind of became more important, obviously. Yeah.
We got a lot of little things that happen in this episode that don't have like a huge storyline. Ronette hates the Bob sketch. She really doesn't like looking at it.
And that was the first convo that we actually had with Ronette too.
Yeah. Andy reveals he's sterile, which he has that great line. Sure, I thought it meant I didn't have to take a bath. And introducing the idea that we don't know who the father of Lucy's kid is.
Right.
Let's see. Finally, people start talking about how Audrey Horne is missing. Nobody talked about it in the previous episode at all.
Yeah.
It's Audrey, she's fine.
I would say they kind of like allude to in the later episode that like Audrey goes missing. I could see how like in the first episode no one really it's like, oh hey, like it has now been a noticeable amount of time.
Yeah. But the bigger things we have, we've got Ben and Foodie Jerry. I love that Jerry is a foodie.
Dude, I actually wrote Food Jerry. Ben and Food Jerry.
The Ledgers and the Cheese Pig. And I love his deliveries of some of those lines. Like, it looks like we're 100% certain. We're not sure. And the marshmallows. Ben, where are those hickory sticks? Those fucking kill me.
I've never seen somebody get that excited about marshmallows than seeing that happy to Jerry.
Or then after Leland recognizes Bob in the photo, and
dude, that was
Jerry has that line: "Is this real, Ben, or some strange and twisted dream?" Which is such a like funny because it's almost like I don't know. It's in a weird way. It's almost like it's like David Lynch making fun of himself in a weird way, especially with the way that actor David Patrick Kelly is performing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, both of them as brothers. I mean, the two of them, for what they actually deal with on the levels of just like being pure evil, we kind of like these guys. So they're just kind of bumbling idiots.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, you're like, how do they actually do what they do? Because they just are being silly, essentially at all times.
Well, so much of Twin Peaks is about redemption, I think, in a weird way.
Sure.
About redeeming, about looking at characters we wouldn't necessarily like. There's very few characters that, especially if you include the return, don't get redeemed. Like Leo.
Yeah.
Bob. I don't know. Like, is there anybody else who doesn't get redeemed by the time the return comes around, or forgotten? I guess. I
think metaphorically, Bob.
Yeah,
I guess in the return, but not direct.
The log lady's log tells Briggs to deliver a message to Coop, which is this behind me. We find out that Briggs is doing some shit with deep space monitors, and the owls are not what they seem. And Cooper.
I love that whole sequence with it's just Margaret coming in next to Major Briggs, and then you see the whole like don't put your gum underneath the table. It was such a funny call out, and Margaret was so like offended, and then it just immediately went to the log because apparently it seemed to be the first time that Major Briggs had ever met Margaret and the log. I don't know how, but it felt that way as far as the introduction of the conversation.
I think it was probably the first time they ever properly met, and I think it was also. I always view Briggs, especially we talked about how he had that heart-to-heart with his son in the last episode. Like he comes off as a very distant character. I think a big thing with Twin Peaks,
I think of him as like an alien. Like he's almost an alien of these characters.
But on like a thematic level, like a big thing about Twin Peaks is that the death of this girl who from the outside seemed perfect has sort of awakened something in everyone where they've become
You're right, yeah.
reflective and stuff. And I think you can even see that with Briggs, where like he's opening up to his son.
Mm-hmm.
He's maybe trying to make like a connection with people in a way that he never has before.
Well, you're definitely right, because he even makes statements about, how he's like, I do this kind of work where I really can't talk about it. And then he starts sharing little bits and pieces, which is probably the most he's ever done. So you're right. He probably, despite the small community, he was the extrovert in the sense of like, I'm just not a part of you guys as much. And now it's that redemption, obviously, which is cool.
We get the first check-in with Leo. We don't check in with Leo at all in that first episode of season 2. Leo is in a coma in a sort of prison. There's a great zoom in on the mirror. And Bobby's got a scheme. They're going to get the government's money. Get that.
Yeah.
Gotta keep scheming away.
Sweet
federal
government. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sucking off of Uncle Sam's teeth.
I'm going to skip over my favorite sequence in this episode to talk about the other thing I have written down, which is the One-Eyed Jack stuff.
Yeah. Well, because the one thing we didn't touch on is that Audrey was a little cocky in the last episode. I think she even made a statement saying, like, Audrey Horn, I get what I want.
That's this one.
And
I'm Audrey Horn.
Is it this one? Okay, copy.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
And this is where she's trying to kind of manipulate the people about
right, yeah.
One-Eyed
Like
Jack.
she discovers the manager
Emery from the department store and his weird fetishes. And another line reading, whoop. Zoom thought I was raising my hand. No, lower hand.
Is that what it does in Zoom?
Yeah. Maybe 2 is not enough. Maybe 2 is too many. Oh, here we go. I've raised my hand. I'm gonna lower my hand. You're doing blood gang signs.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. What'll activate it?
There's a line reading here that's also stuck in my brain where when Audrey rings the ice in and Emery goes like, Frosty, my little snowman.
yeah.
I just loved how angry he was when the vacuum cleaner turned off.
Vacuum. I was just going to say, that's what did it to him. He was like, how dare you?
Yeah.
It was just there.
Yeah, I was so close.
It's amazing.
And then Audrey finds out about her father and Laura, and she calls Coop but gets caught. And that's the cliffhanger.
Great ending to that episode, honestly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, as much as they like have Audrey dragging this story out, I was like, okay, that's a good way to end that.
Yeah.
I honestly thought the resolution was going to be next episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's in 3 more episodes.
Yeah, not quite.
3 more, yeah.
Yeah.
We have a long negotiation session that's ahead of the process.
And my favorite scene in this episode, unironically, I love Just You and I, the song by James
I wrote it down as
Maddie
well.
and Donna.
It's debut.
Yeah.
The debut.
Incredible. It's got a great, again, we're not going to talk about it, but great callback in the return.
I was just about to, I caught myself this time because I was going to go up too.
And then also that ends with the great sequence. This was one of the other gifts I put in the opening was Maddie seeing that vision of Bob crawling over the couch.
Yeah.
And obviously there's like
this is where
sexual
this is where Bob is. Yeah, and this is where Bob is throwing. You're seeing that. You're starting to see what that. Because the first season it's just this quick mention of it, but you're now seeing it haunt the world of Twin Peaks in real time. So,
but let's move to episode 10. Boogieing on now. We got this. This is a reaction shot from a point in the episode. I particularly love. He looks like a frightened dog. Cartoon
he
dog.
has reason to be.
Yeah.
Really, he has reason.
This is another Leslie Linka Glatter episode. Let's see. These last 2 are a little more scattered how I've organized them. Well, no, not the last one. This one is. Donna meets Harold finally. We get the introduction of Harold, which is kind of Harold in a lot of way is I'm gonna call him season two's Dr. Jacoby. He is the big spoiler alert for people. He's the big fat red herring they're putting in front of you, like, hey, look at this guy. Isn't he probably the one who killed Laura?
Really, really, yeah. He has a David Schwimmer vibe to him, by the way.
Which
think
is
of when I was
getting back to what we were saying about like how the show would have lasted for seasons. I imagine like each season would have had like a new kind of like that
How do you
season,
think that,
or like that arc's red herring of like.
Isn't that what the CW did for all those superhero, like the Flash? They just kept introducing another villain to be the whole season. Yeah, that's what it would have done.
Well, I mean, that's like Buffy with like the big bad kind of.
Sure, yeah.
But that's basically what they would do, is like the big bad, instead of it being a villain they have to defeat, it's a big red herring. And to be fair, they probably would have done a couple each season. I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But he's definitely, I think he is very specifically filling the role of Dr. Jacoby, in that he's the kind of weird, psychosexual connection to Laura, as opposed to like like Leo in the first season, who's a more like directly, aggressively sexual relationship to Laura. We get a lot of great stuff with the cops in this episode. ACAB except Twin Peaks. They find a newly planted bee in Ronette's fingernail. Coop tells the others about the giant, and Albert has that great line, any relation with the dwarf?
Albert, another brilliant exchange of just him. It's like him just integrating himself in. He's kind of the home base now. He's not just the guest.
Yeah.
And he's just great.
And this is the episode where Albert really becomes the Albert I love.
Yeah.
This speech, when I'm going to read it because I wrote down the whole thing.
I bet I have it written down too.
Harry confronts Albert, and he's like, now you listen to me. While I admit to a certain cynicism, the fact is that I am a naysayer and hatchet man in the fight against violence. I pride myself in taking a punch, and I'll gladly take another because I choose to live my life in the company of Gandhi and King. My concerns are global. I reject absolutely revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. I love you, Sheriff Truman. And then...
I mean, and with Angelo's score on that, and like as you were hitting it, I'm thinking about the beat where he finally takes his arm off the jacket of Harry and just like smooths it out, and just he's in this beautiful moment. It's bonkers how great it is.
That was so good. No, amazing scene, and like it absolutely shifts the character for you.
Mm-hmm. It's the thing. It's like it's Twin Peaks is a show in a lot of ways about redemption. I feel like at its core, and about these people redeeming themselves.
I also wonder, just on like a production value of just like, okay, this character was who he was in the first season, and now like they wanted to bring him back, and it's just sort of like, well, he can't just be a jerk again, because then why isn't he going to punch him?
Yeah.
And that speech is just like, okay, now we can excuse he can be that attitude, but we know who he is, and it just kind of like allows that character to remain there for as long as he does.
And then you immediately get Cooper to follow that up, and it's almost like, because to the point, especially in the first year, like, why does Cooper defend this guy so much? Like
Albert's path is a strange and difficult one.
Yeah.
And that's again, so you're finally figuring it out that like, okay, Cooper seems like the super best dude ever. You kind of are now getting that world that like, you know what, not everything is what it seems. And I think both Albert starts to realize that about Twin Peaks and vice versa.
Well, and I think Albert is very much so a character who is gruff on the surface. He's a classic gruff on the surface, heart of gold character.
Totally.
But they don't reveal that really until this episode. And I think that's what makes the character, because I love him before. If he had just been an asshole, he would have been a great character. And really funny.
And it's funny because obviously we're on the rewatching thing, so it's like any moment I get him, I'm so excited. But yeah, this is the first like real human moment he's had on the series.
Well, especially because this is a mild spoiler. Again, the return. We won't talk about it too much. He is all over the
We
return.
want to though.
Like one of the main storylines is him, David Lynch, and David Lynch's Girl Friday doing like FBI stuff, and
man,
like a solid, I don't know how much of it, like maybe a quarter of the show is just them, more or less, and
absolutely.
So he's like one of the like he's probably like top 10 most featured people in the return, and specifically all the scenes are with David Lynch's Gordon Cole, and it's just great, you know.
Did he pass right before the actual premiere of it?
It was around that time for sure.
Yeah, that's what I thought, because I remember that being the big thing. Like, it's a love letter in a lot of ways, and like Lynch was so happy that he was able to get the time with him.
Yeah,
because I think he didn't make it to even the premiere of the return.
And it's great too because it's one of the few, like, I love Miguel Ferrer, and this is one of the few times where he gets to be a good guy. You know, like many times he's like a bad guy or a schmuck, like in RoboCop or something.
Sure.
And in this one, he gets to be like a cool, like, he is an asshole, but he's like a golden-hearted one who you love.
Yeah,
right.
Dr. Cox X character. Yeah.
That's a great comparison, Dr. Cox.
Yeah.
Also, with the cops this episode, Leland tells Coop and Harry about his experiences as a kid and a Robertson neighbor named Robertson, and the return of the "you want to play with fire, little boy." Up at the two of the Giants' clues have been solved so far, and the third one gets solved when one-armed Mike tries to sell shoes. He sees the Bob sketch and tries to do drugs in the bathroom and seems to transform into someone who knows Bob, and it's the without chemicals he points, seemingly. And then we
just
also
show your kids drugs are bad.
If you do drugs, you won't know the evil spirit that you're linked to.
I think that was a marijuana he injected. I think it was one marijuana.
And then Shelley doesn't want to testify against Leo, which Coop easily goes along with because he like immediately understands what's going on. He's like, they're doing the insurance thing.
Right.
And just the way he talks to her about like, because you love him. So hopefully he wakes up and he's the exact same guy. And I'm sure he'll be happy to see you. And like I really like that scene.
Yeah. Let's see. I was mentioning earlier before we really were talking about how Kimmy Robertson as Lucy was promoted to lead. And her promotion mainly comes in the form of scenes with everyone's favorite Twin Peaks character, Dick Tremaine, introduced in this episode.
I mean,
finally,
I just love the first thing you just hear Dick. You know, you're like, oh no.
Man, all
personifies.
I was like, when does the Dick storyline start?
Dick has come.
When does my favorite metrosexual finally show up? We get some James and Maddie and Donna love triangle stuff. Who cares? James has a pretty good scream. I was thinking a lot in this episode, like, are James and Donna specifically supposed to be virgins? Is that the reading? I read Donna definitely as a virgin. James almost, I think, in a weird way. Like they have the vibe, the way they talk about it. There's something.
It's so funny. You asked me that question, and I'm realizing I have not thought about it once. Like that's just so I don't think it would change my thought either way. Like maybe, but like I don't know. To me, they're just kids. Like it does. It's just the teen soap opera.
Yeah, totally.
I guess whether or not they're virgins is irrelevant. I'm talking in a very like old school kind of way of talking about sexuality, because even if Donna is having sex, she's clearly just having very chaste sex with Mike, her official boyfriend, whereas opposed to Laura is doing all sorts of fucking crazy ass shit. And so like even if Donna isn't a virgin, she's still in that like scope of experience. Still falls like wildly behind Laura And because that's like a defining trait of her character, is that she's always, I mean, I have this written, this is kind of skipping ahead, but another good Donna scene this episode when she visits Laura's grave.
That's actually might be my favorite Donna scene.
Yeah, and
it's a good call.
There's these really complicated feelings that Donna has because she loved her. She kind of wanted to be her in a way. Like she clearly is like jealous of her experience and stuff, but is also very afraid of it. And she's got that great line. It's almost like they didn't bury you deep enough.
Well, like, because I like what she says before that about how like you're gone, but we're still dealing with your problems.
We're still dealing with your stuff. Yeah. And it just shows obviously the selfishness that Laura did possess, but then she had such a great, obviously, charisma and personality that people loved about her. But it was just that battle, of having to deal with each side of her. And then that's where, I mean, that anger is pure, and it makes so much sense for their dynamic. And then why you see like Donna just go off the rails sometimes too.
Yeah.
Let's see. We get some One-Eyed Jack stuff. Emery and Blackie give drugs to Audrey and are going to blackmail her father. And it seems to imply that Ben got Blackie hooked on drugs. And they seem like they're going to plan to just kill Audrey.
Jerry, because Jerry did the whole like gave her the balloon right at the end of that last episode of the first season, or the first episode, rather. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then we get Michael Parks as Jean Renault shows up, the one Renault that's not played by the one. The one guy, or the other, there's like the one guy in like the pilot or something that's also technically played by a different actor who's another Renault, but it's a whole other thing. I don't want to get into it. We get some hospital stuff, 2 big hospital scenes. Nadine cuffed to the bed because she's super strong because of adrenaline. Ed sings and feels her grip. She wakes up doing a cheer and thinking she is in high school, and we get this reaction, which is pretty great.
It's magical.
And
poor Ed. Honestly, Ed just is like, he just gets thrown in it.
Yeah.
He's causing if you think about it, what's he doing? He's causing nobody anything difficult. He's just trying to be a good guy.
And then we get Jacoby in full island mode with his Hawaiian life and wife. He's going to be hypnotized. Henry gets all sleepy, which is a great little moment. That was another moment I put in the gifts at the beginning. And we basically completely clear Jacoby of... We'd kind of already done that for the audience in the previous season.
Yeah.
But for like the case of like the actual case, we finally do it
moving
here.
The characters along. They've now caught up to us.
And Leland is arrested for the murder of Jacques Renault because Jacoby seems to remember it. And Harold seems to have Harold seems to have Laura's secret diary. And that's the other cliffhanger we leave off on.
Yeah.
Again, not pushing the red herring idea at all.
Yeah. All right. Let's switch to the last episode we're talking about tonight. We mentioned this opening shot earlier where the camera pulls out of the ceiling tile. I again can't believe they still haven't gone to rescue Audrey at this point. But the big opening of this episode is Leland basically just confessing to the murder of Jacques from the end of last season. And people are kind of sympathetic. Coop isn't, because he's like the letter of the law. But Doc Hayward is a little more like nobody should ever.
Everyone in the community they care about his well-being, for sure.
let's see.
Speaking of that doctor, he has that scene with Andy, and
I was just gonna say because I wrote down Andy's secret mission, and then gets caught out by Lucy with the porn mag, the flesh world, which is kind of a weird, that's a weird thing to pull out. By the way, like you're like, look, this is the magazine that's a clue to this murderous thing that happened to this girl.
Shit.
I'm gonna go whack off to this so I can see if I'm fertile or not. And you're just like, there's nothing else you can find, Andy. Anywhere.
I mean, what are the ethics of jerking off at your place of employment, regardless of the circumstances?
Yeah.
There's that as well. That's a given, but that's the thing. This mission was a layered mission.
This was very. We need a comedy plot line in our television show.
Yeah,
and we have to keep the Lucy and Andy. Lucy and Andy had to have their thing. That was drawn out just as much as Audrey.
It is fun to see the as groundbreaking as the show is, how much it also does provide regular television. The will they, won't they, and just the shenanigans.
And Scott, I'm gonna do it for the last time. I swear, I promise, guys. But in the return, Connor, when you get to see Lucy and Andy with their youngin,
I know.
God,
I'm aware.
Oh God, everything about that. I remember literally just sitting up and looking at my TV when that sequence is happening, just going like, "What am I watching right now?"
This is In terms of that's not my favorite scene from The Return, but it might be the funniest scene from The Return.
No, but it's up there for sure. Yeah, it's so good.
I have a whole section here just labeled Lucy. Originally I had it Andy, but it was like Lucy's gotta have it.
Yeah.
Her at the end when she's like, he never exercises, he never washes his car, and he doesn't even own a sports coat.
Coop is investigating this weird supernatural shit, and he's just like, oh, that's what you guys are concerned about. Okay, got it.
Yeah, and Coop is trying to repair this, and Harry's just like, listen.
Yeah, be the mediator. Yeah. You're wasting your time.
And then the genuinely pretty funny scene where Dick Tremaine comes in and he's like, I want to help you out. I want to help you pay for the abortion. And she's just like, get the fuck out of here.
The way he takes that envelope out, and then she just is like, what is this? And yeah, the way she told her to leave, how detailed and just long played out that goodbye was to him was just petty and great.
All right. I've got 5 other little storylines besides the ending. First is the One-Eyed Jack stuff. We get Jean comes to blackmail Ben, which then involves Ben putting on a show for Coop. Emery,
you guys have a special relationship. The episode prior, it's like, you stay away from my daughter kind of vibe,
Well, I mean,
interesting.
It wasn't even that. At first, he was just more like, hey, just she does this to a lotot of guys. It was just more like, oh, you think you're special? You're not. I know who my daughter is. It was more calling him out than anything. Just sort of but yeah, you're right. And then the next episode, hey, buddy.
I know how much you love my daughter.
Yeah, she's right here for you.
And you know what? She loves you.
She loves you.
You know what I said about the other guys? You're different.
You're different.
Emery, the manager at the Horns department store, is killed by Jean Renault, and Jean gives Audrey a pretty awful hug. And we'll get back to this as one of the 2 ending scenes, but Coop enlists the Bookhouse Boys for help with this one. In case you're wondering, my 4 other, besides the ending 2 scenes, my 4 other big, this will give you guys know what I'm talking about, sections are labeled MT Wentz, Donna and Harold, Josie, and Judge Sternwood. But yeah, MT Wentz is the shortest of them. Basically, they set up this idea that there's a food critic coming into town, an anonymous food critic that you don't know, nobody knows how they look.
You just know it's MT Wentz.
Yeah. They pay in cash, so there's no record.
Could be a guy, could be a gal. Yeah. Nobody knows the actual name. And Hank and Norma. Hank gets a real bee in his bonnet about sprucing up the RR Diner. And it's kind of the first time we've seen, Hank is wrong because, like, obviously he's wrong in this sense because the diner should just be the diner. But you also kind of, for the first time, see, like, oh, like, I understand why Norma would like this guy. Like, he does seem...
the take charge, I'm going to get this thing fixed up. And But then you also saw her step back and almost like the hesitation kicked in as well. Yeah. Like, it's almost like, I want to love this because that's why I was into him from the beginning. But something about him still, you know.
I think she like recognizes like,
like she's like, I know this is a road I shouldn't go down.
She knows who he is. Yeah. It's like, we've been here before.
Yeah,
right. But it's enticing.
She knows what comes after this.
Yeah. This is the man.
It's like honestly, it's like kind of it's like getting when somebody relapses or something. It's like that beginning. You know, it's going to be that end.
Yeah,
that beginning sometimes is is everything.
Yeah.
And then we also get. No spoilers, guys. No spoilers. Another possible NT Wentz shows up. Mr. Tajimura shows up for the first time. And who knows who this guy could be? Wink. Wink.
Yep. Just a dude's dude, man's man. That's all I know.
Just a guy hanging out at a hotel trying to get a room.
Yeah, I mean, you know me. I'm the anti-gender anything, but this is the definition of man's man. That's all I know. That's all I can tell.
Over with Harold and Donna. Harold reveals Laura's diary, which kind of negates a little bit of the cliffhanger from the last one. That's how this gets resolved.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, I have Laura's diary, and he reads from it, and it's funny. The caption, this isn't literally what the piece that he read said, but in essence, the section of her diary that he read said, "Don is an idiot who doesn't know what it's like to get fucked," which is funny, and Harold collects stories, I guess, whatever that means. Weird.
Harold is just a weirdo. That's
weird
all.
way to put it.
Everything about Harold is weird.
Well, I mean, look who his neighbors are. So.
The way he read though was just wild. Like he was just the fawning almost way of reading.
Yeah.
Donna was just wild.
He definitely has the vibe of like Tobey Maguire in the Spider-Man movies, where he always looks like he's about to cry. Josie returns from shopping. She shows off to Harry her new clothes, her expensive new nightgown or whatever, nightie. He's suspicious until they both get very horny, and he tears that shit like an incredible Hulk.
I think Josie more. Yeah, Josie was like, ravage, and Harry wasn't sure.
Well, I almost think that Josie in a lot of ways is doing that intentionally to be like.
Of course she is.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the ultimate thing about her character, obviously, and we kind of end a little bit learning more about her, but obviously then we know what we're going to find out in the next few.
Yeah.
It's not an upswing. Let's put it that way. Spoiler.
Yeah, and they're being watched by the guy from Hong Kong that we haven't mentioned last couple episodes, an Asian man who seems to be lurking around the hotel, who in this episode is revealed to be Josie's cousin, quote unquote. But they seem to be scheming, and they mention someone named Mr. Eckerd.
Yeah.
And then the last big thing we get before the ending of the episode is Judge Sternwood shows up, who's a great little side character.
That actually, the way he entered reminded me of Things in the Return, funnily enough, like tonal wise, because especially with the rain and thunder and the vibe of it, the way he walked in, you felt like this. Okay, who is this guy? The way they approached him was great.
Yeah, he's such a sweetheart with Lucy, and I love that he is like, he's kind of a different, he's like Coop in a different font, in a lot of ways. Like Harry has that little line about them, and then he's got that great speech when he's talking to Leland. When these frail shadows we inhibit now have quit the stage, we'll meet and raise a glass again together in Valhalla. And Leland has that with that it was so. He's a great little character, and he's got the hot clerk. And then episode ends with earlier Cooper had asked for the best bookhouse boy, and Truman shows up because, of course, Truman's the best bookhouse boy, which I love. That's such a
obviously.
cute scene.
I mean, that's just such a bro move right there, and what they're doing.
Yeah,
like, and that bromance that they have together is clear, very evident in that moment too.
And it's fucking crazy to end this episode because this is a weird what the fuck cliffhanger compared to the other ones we've ended it on. But the actual ending of this episode is just Hank getting beat up in the diner by the man from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So
like just in the most like Steven Seagal style ways where you're like, he just does this and he flips over a counter and it was great.
Yeah. But yeah, that's
I might have flipped those two scenes.
Yeah.
I am not.
Yeah,
it's fine.
They
That's
needed
the
to
genius
end
of this show. Yeah,
they needed to end with a punch and not with like a sweet.
Yeah.
Like they're just kicking a door in and it's just like credits bang out that way.
But I think it's time, unless you guys have anything else to say about these episodes.
Oh, you know what I was thinking? I was just real quick about the judge. I was just thinking about, you know what I thought of when I was thinking about him was, and it is a slight spoiler for the return, but it was definitely the vibe of Robert Forster for me with the judge. Like just the feeling of it. Yeah,
for sure.
To me, I just like the final, like starting season 2 was like, here we go. Now we are in, Twin Peaks.
Totally.
Now like the weird shit begins.
Right.
And
we moved in. We've done laundry. We're ready to go.
Yeah. Because I remember, like I said, just going back to what we said, you guys were talking about with this season 1 felt like sort of intro, and I remember one of you said how like, when you think of Twin Peaks, you think of like Fire Walk with Me and The Return, and just like, but it's like we're beginning that part of the show now in like earnest, not just like
sweet. This is the sweet pocket right now. For sure.
Not just like the suggestion of it with like I said, with like the Red Room in episode 3. This is like, okay,
you're in it.
Yeah.
These are the episodes that when you're watching other episodes, you're like, oh, I wish we could have more of these episodes. For sure.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm ready for some Wicked games.
Yeah, let's do this. Yeah, let's play some games.
Connor's Wicked Games, much by Chris Isaac, David Lynch's best friend. Like every week, like Jigsaw, play a little game. This week, Twin Peaks roll call. I'm gonna give you all 3 films. This is a format that I've had in the back of my head for a while because I knew we were gonna be doing a bunch of Twin Peaks episodes, and I was like, I gotta figure out like a couple. I figured out 2 formats that we're gonna revisit, and the next one we're gonna do in the next episode. But this is the first of them. Sorry, I'm over-explaining. I'm gonna give you guys 3 films from the filmography of a major actor on Twin Peaks. First one to blurt out the actor or character they play on Twin Peaks, or even a decent description of their role, gets the points. Okay. After I read aloud the first film, everyone.
How far are we going? Is it just all Twin Peaks universe? Or are we basing it on what we're playing, but what we've been watching?
What we've been watching. Yes, you're right. I should clarify. It's all people who have been in what we've seen up to this point. Yes.
Okay. Cool.
I did that decisive, like on purpose, very specifically, because I was like,
it makes more sense.
So for example, because I know she's in it, Laura Dern.
But Laura Dern, I think we'll revisit this game type in once towards the end of season 2 and once in season 3, and Laura Dern might be in it in the season 3 one, but
yes,
right.
After I read aloud the first film, everyone gets a chance to guess. If someone gets it right after just the first film, you get 3 points. After the second, 2 points. After the last, 1 point. So, for instance, here's an example: Showgirls. Anybody know who's in that movie?
Colin McLaughlin.
So you would have gotten 3 points for that. The second movie I would have listed.
Give me that. Let's just get on to it. Give me those points. I feel good to get started that way.
Is Dune. I'll get. You know what? I'll give you those. Well, I don't know.
That's a good one. No, give it. Good. I wouldn't have got it. Yeah.
I'll give him.
I watched that shit early on, and I think that was honestly probably maybe my first introduction to Colin McLaughlin.
The second movie
Mine was the Flintstones movie.
Yeah, I should have completed that one. The second movie I have here is Dune. The third is Blue Velvet, and obviously that was Colin McLaughlin as FBI agent Del Cooper. Let me write this down. And when I say major actor, there are 13 of these, and 6 of them are leads, and all of the rest are like either major stars who are like in the also starring or guest starring, or pretty notable characters. Like none of it's. I'm not throwing some bullshit at you. It's not like the kid who like dances across the hall in the pilot or something.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. So first off, anybody know which Twin Peaks actor was in Meatballs 4?
Meatballs 4? I don't think I ever saw Meatballs 4. I got to be honest.
Andy.
You want to give a guess?
Yeah.
Just in case you get it, Brian, because it's first person to get it.
As well.
No, it's not. If it was Andy, I would give it to him. It's not Andy.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, copy. Okay. Maybe Kimmy.
All right, I'll give you a second movie. This actor was also in Dune.
And there's no repeats, or you? I mean, not that there is in this one, but
no, it's not Kyle MacLachlan again.
No, I know that. That made me think about it, though. It's always Kyle MacLachlan. It should always be Kyle.
Yeah. I only saw Dune once for the first time last year.
Is that passes?
Yeah, that's passes. Yeah.
Brian.
So do I get to go one more?
Yeah, you get to guess again because he guessed Andy for the first.
Right. Yeah. Maybe Dana or Bobby.
Right. Last, I know what you mean. Last movie. So this person was in Meatballs 4, Dune, and Blue Velvet.
Oh man. I mean, it would make sense in some ways that it's Jack Nance, but I don't know. Maybe
that's a point for Brian.
Okay.
Shit.
I was like, I know Jack Nance shit, but I'm like, I've never seen Meatballs. And then when you brought up Blue Velvet, I was like, he's an icon in that film. You know, as a character actor in that. So,
next actor, and I'm using actor in the gender neutral term.
Yeah.
This actor was in Happiness, the Todd Solondz movie, I believe.
Yeah. Ray Wise.
Nope.
No.
Brian?
I actually haven't seen Happiness. Seems like a movie he'd be in.
Well, here's another that I think too, though. Laura Flynn Boyle.
2 points for Brian. Or 3 points. That was the first one.
That's 3. No, that's 3. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't even need to
one
get
of those things.
Men in Black 2 or Wayne's World, which were the other two.
I'm just thinking.
Oh, if you were giving me Men in Black 2, I would have. Yeah.
Yeah. Because what happened to her career was sort of interesting. That I don't even know the film, but it just sounds like something she would have been in. That like her agent had to push on her a little bit.
That sounds like that's about the right time. Yeah, from when that came out.
Next up, this actor was in Atlas Shrugged Part 2.
Jesus. Kyle MacLachlan.
I don't know. No idea exactly. It's Kyle MacLachlan for sure. I have no idea what that even is.
You know what? I'm going to say Ray Wise for this one too. I see like him like just not even like agreeing with agreeing with the politics, but just like it seems like that would also be the kind of movie where it's like, hey man, a gig's a gig.
3 points for Scott.
Right.
It's Ray Wise.
Fuck yeah,
man! It would pay. It had to pay off at some point.
You know what? Because like, just honestly, like that is the type of movie where like, we need like a really good actor.
Right.
We can't afford. Like, no offense, Ray Wise, but like we can get like a
he did enough where you could get him depending upon the size of the role.
Like he's a sizable character actor type. Yeah.
He's in a handful of those Christian movies, and I don't blame him for any of it because I'm sure he's just getting a paycheck.
He was also $1.
He was also in that great show Reaper,
I honestly would relish him doing it that way too.
Yeah.
See, that's how if I was Ray Wise character type, I would want to do that. I'd want to do a bunch of satanic roles for fun. and then get all my money from like Christian propaganda films. That would be the way I'd do it.
The other two movies I have listed for him are Tim and Eric's $1 billion movie and RoboCop.
Funny.
Awesome. Yeah. I forgot he was in Tim and Eric.
Next up, he's got a great scene.
Yeah.
Next up,
I'm just thinking about it now.
Yeah. This actor was in Hesher.
God, I'm thinking of the other kid, thinking of the lead.
I don't know. Hesher. What is that movie?
Oh, I think I got it. Piper.
Man,
it's a JGL's in it. It's like it has the Metallica logo. Like the branding of it stuck in my brain, and it was like him being like a weird biker maniac. I barely remember it, but it came out a few years back. Natalie Portman's in it.
It's like 10 years or so ago. It was like at the tail end of like the indie boom, essentially, like in like the late 2000s and early 2010s.
Yeah.
And it's like Joseph Gordon-Levitt as like a metalhead and like a character study.
Okay.
But 3 points for Brian. That was Piper Laurie is in that. The other movies I had listed for her were Return to Oz and Carrie.
Oh yeah, and Carrie's the big Carrie's obviously that's her most famous. I think next to Twin Peaks for sure. But yeah, that I don't know. That's I think that movie also I relate it somehow to that. What was it? It's the name of the city in California. It was like a car movie.
Cars.
Sorry. No. Bellflower.
Torque.
Remember? No, Bellflower.
Yeah. I remember Bellflower.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm reminding that of Hesher because that period of time was like you were saying that like weird.
Yeah.
Before
like A24 kind of came back and revived the indie world.
I've never seen Hesher, but I absolutely remember like the one screenshot of like buff Joseph Gordon-Levitt standing in front of that fire. Yeah. Now that you meant like now
it was
I
like
looked it up.
Nick Cage, Mandy level.
Next.
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Next actor.
Movies.
This actor was in Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the Monkees movie.
I mean, that goes back.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just.
Yeah, I need a guess.
I'm
gonna give you.
Is that Is that Pete?
It's not Pete.
Okay.
Pete's Jack.
Yeah.
Michael.
Nope. Next movie this person was in Men in Black, the first one.
Huh.
The last one will definitely give it away, I think. You guys want the last one?
Let's hear it. I don't have a guess, yeah.
Brian?
Yeah, what's the last clue?
Yeah.
I think I have it, but I know I'm gonna try.
Guess then. You'll get 2 points.
I'm thinking The Giant.
2 points for Brian. Yep, the last one was the Addams Family.
I wasn't 100% sure. That's what I was doing. So I was trying to think in Men in Black, and I'm like, no, he's a standout.
Oh,
obviously.
I know exactly what you mean, Men in Black. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next.
And I was afraid of that because I knew as soon as you said Adams. Thank you, Scott, for pushing me to the right answer. I'm not getting points.
Next actor was in Silent Night, Deadly Night 3. Better watch out.
Ooh, we haven't gotten to that one yet.
Is Bobby in that?
It's not Bobby. Brian?
Maybe Margaret?
No, they were also in The Diary of Anne Frank.
The log lady. It's just a Diary of Anne Frank.
As the log lady.
Yeah.
As the log lady, yeah. That's that, yeah. I'm sorry, everyone. I apologize. I don't know.
Our hearts are with the people.
Uncanceled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any guesses for Anne Frank?
No.
Or y'all want to hear this third movie?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know.
They were also in West Side Story.
Which one?
The old one.
Old one. Okay.
Rachel's.
This is a child, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
A baby left on a street corner. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I'm not a, you know, I can't picture
Yeah.
it together, to be honest with you.
This is Richard Beimer, who plays Ben Horn, who is not only is he in, I don't know how last time you guys fucking saw the original West Side Story. Not only is he West Side Story, he's the lead. He's the male lead of West Side Story. The guy who plays Ben.
Oh shit!
Really?
Yes, 100%.
Holy shit!
Well, that explains the dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Wait, who does he play?
Like, you don't need to get on the desk. He gets on the desk anyway.
Which lead is he? Is he?
He's the male lead. He's Romeo.
Okay.
He's the lead. He's the male lead. It's
okay. Yeah,
it's
I guess
him.
I thought he might be the brother. Yeah,
he's smooching Natalie Wood.
Yeah. All right.
Wow.
In brownface. All right. Next up, this is the only one.
Is he really?
No, she is. He's not.
Oh, Jesus. You know me, I'm not the big musical guy that you guys are. So that's Scott. I'm telling you, you may lose a few points in your music group, for not knowing that.
What are you gonna do?
Win some, lose some.
Next up, so this one I pulled TV credits for this person. All the other ones are film, but this one is TV credits. And so the first one is this person was on ER. And not like in a single episode of ER. Like
okay, they had like
not like a lead, but like a consistent character. I think they were in like 10 episodes or something.
It just gets hard because that stuff if I've seen it, it's in passing.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I watched it when it was on.
All right.
And
I'd just be guessing names.
I wouldn't have been he was on Twin Peaks because I hadn't seen Twin Peaks yet, so.
And I've certainly never rewatched. I don't think it was a consistent watch, and I never have gone back.
They were also in the pilot episode of Baywatch.
All right. So they were 90s television actor.
Yeah.
Bobby?
That could be Dana.
Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah.
It's not Bobby.
You have to decide. Okay.
I'll give you their last credit here. They are in Riverdale.
Oh, Madchen.
Yep.
Shelley.
I don't know if she was a babe in the first episode of Baywatch or just like a bystander, but
I mean, yeah, but still
could go either way.
Yeah, totally.
All right, next actor was in Argo. These are movies again.
John Goodman.
All right, I'm going to give you guys the next name.
Yeah.
The next movie, they were also in Kill Bill.
Oh, shoot.
No guesses?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to, because I'm sure it's a character actor for the role.
And they were also in Tusk.
Oh God. Wait. Is it Jean Reno? I don't know his acting name.
That is indeed Michael Parks as Jean Reno.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
But super character actor, obviously, in the sense of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Next up, this actor was in Django Unchained. No guesses?
No.
No, it's another.
They were also in Cabin Boy.
I'm gonna just guess Michael, because I feel like that's something the canon that he would have been doing. Hawk or Michael.
Yeah, no, that's not it though. And lastly, they were also in the original West Side Story. I'll go ahead and tell you the part. They're Richard Beimer's best friend, like the other, like the second lead, not the Hispanic lead, but the other, like the second lead in the white gang.
I do not know.
Yeah, I don't know the actual.
Dr. Jacoby.
No kidding.
Huh.
Which is really funny that.
All right, I'm going to just say it one more. This is the last time. I can't wait to see Dr. Jacoby in a return. Yeah. Just saying.
Next up, we got a couple more of these. This actor was in Armageddon.
Ben Affleck.
Yeah, I don't know.
They were in My Own Private Idaho.
Okay.
I've not seen that.
And cut me off if I start reading out the next name of a film. Cut me off if you have a guess. And they were also in. I definitely designed some of these questions. I'll design for people that I think are coming, and I definitely designed this one for Edwin to guess. This actor was also in Child's Play 2.
Oh, I know, but it's Deborah Zabrowski. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Grace. Yes. Sarah Palmer.
Sarah Palmer was in Child's Play 2.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Okay,
I watched Child's Play 2 relatively recently. I don't know that.
Next up, these are the last three. These last three are the extra hard ones. I'll be surprised if we get any points from these.
We've been killing it so far. So
that guy we saw behind that thing.
Yeah. That was the easy round.
Yeah, exactly.
Silent Night. Another person from Silent Night, Deadly Night 3. Better watch out. There's another Twin Peaks actor in that movie.
Man.
That was definitely like a, hey man, you want this job? Like we know this guy. We can both get on this gig real quick.
This actor was also in Critters 4.
Didn't make it to that one. Yeah. Only.
I think, by the way, Critters is playing Friday at the Egyptian. Randomly.
And this actor was in Starship Troopers.
I mean, I'm just going to throw it out there. Maybe it's got to be one of them. Is it Hawk, Michael?
It's not a Hawk.
I just don't think I know.
I don't know. I don't have a guess.
I do not know.
Yeah.
This is Eric Dare, who plays Leo Johnson. Was in.
Oh, no kidding. Dude, that makes sense with My Private Idaho too. I think I can imagine his character weirdly.
Next up. This actor was in Scream.
Oh man, I don't know why I can't do this.
Yeah, I don't know.
My brain's just running through Scream right now.
Yeah,
Do you want the second?
Yeah.
They were also in Big Daddy.
Oh, dude, I know and I guarantee the third one's going to be the full giveaway one. Matthew Lillard.
No. Again.
No, but didn't he play a Twin Peaks character?
Yes, but later, not in this part.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's also not in Big Daddy. I'm trying to think.
I don't really know his career, really.
I just know Big Daddy. I love that movie as a kid. What's the next one? Yeah.
True Grit.
The new one?
No, the 60s one.
Oh.
In fact, I've been pulling a mean little prank on you guys, and when I said Scream, I of course meant the 1980 1981 American slasher film. And when I said Big Daddy, I of course meant the 1969 horror film.
This should be during a spelling bee. We have to actually name out.
Could you please use it?
Can you please clarify?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's a good, really nice.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know
it doesn't help me.
It was funny. I literally looked at this person's filmography and I was like, oh, I can find movies with names.
That's amazing.
I love that. I'm throwing out Matthew Lillard.
You know what was so funny?
The opposite
too,
of anything could be in this.
Is that I was like, you would think, as much as I'm a fan of Scream and Twin Peaks, I would know that connection.
Right. That's what I'm scanning the whole movie, and I'm like,
yeah, I'm like, what? Who?
How deep did he go?
Yeah,
any guesses as who this could be?
No fucking clue. No,
well, I have no idea.
This is Hank Warden, who plays the elderly room service waiter.
I almost just said that as a joke. I almost just go, oh man, that's funny.
He was in he was one of John Wayne's buddies. He was in a bunch of John Wayne movies back in the day.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
Wait, but that takes away what I said though, because I thought he was one of David Lynch's non-actor actors, but it sounds like
yeah, he was in tons of stuff. Yeah, as a minor guy. Yeah, we're gonna have to redact that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
just flash it up on the screen, redact it. It'll be fine.
I just put up bullshit, just Scott talking out of his ass.
Yeah.
Scott having no idea what he was talking about.
I'll tell you this,
you
Scott.
have a soundbite of booze.
We're on the last one, and there's no way you can catch up.
Oh, I didn't assume I was going to do well. I mean, this really is only my second time through Twin Peaks, so I don't know the actors.
I would have been embarrassed if I didn't do as well as I did.
Yeah.
All right.
Talking about the game.
This next actor was in Vanilla Sky.
Tom Cruise.
Correct, but not for this.
Yeah, man. Dude, I love this part in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, it was so.
They are also, I would say they were, but I should phrase it as they are going to be in Long Legs.
Oh, man. I can't wait for that movie.
It looks great.
Yeah.
That and Cuckoo.
That and Cuckoo, but we're getting that trailer next week, by the way.
No, it finally came out today.
Yeah. Oh, did it? Was it today it dropped? Oh, shit. I think I saw it behind Immaculate.
Yeah.
So I already seen it, but yeah.
It didn't want to compete with Joker Folie à Deux.
Yeah. This actor was also in Dune. The original, the David Lynch one.
I'm just going to say, because we haven't said him in a while, but Hank?
Nope, it's not Hank.
I'll go back to my original guess, Andy.
Nope, this is the most minor character, but this is Alicia Witt, who plays she's the Hayward sister who plays the piano. And
oh wow!
Oh yeah, you mentioned that.
She is also she plays little baby Alia in the David Lynch's Dune, and spoilers for The Return, she does come back on The Return for a couple episodes. She's
Sunshine.
Only Hayward's sister that does, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, Brian, congratulations. That's a gold medal. Scott, that's a silver. No bronze to give out. But
Scott and I should just split a bronze and we each get a half added onto our annual.
There you go. Yeah, I think I like that. Yeah.
We showed up. We showed up ready to battle.
Yeah, we'll see.
That's like what your dad or your parents says when they're just annoyed by a child and they're just like, yeah, we'll talk about that later. That's what that is right there. That's the editing happening live.
Well, anything else I wanted to say? Let's get a motherfucking ceasefire up in here, especially now. It's getting fucking rough. It's fucking bunch of fucking horse shit over there. But also, I want to make an addendum to last week's episode. Something we forgot, incredibly remiss to mention.
Oh my God! You texted me. To be fair, you did text me immediately after we ended, and you were right. Is this what you're going to?
I think I can't remember if I said this or not, but Ernie Hudson is 79 years old, and what a fucking hunk! Like such.
Yeah, I mean,
like literally
ageless, just
like
fine wine to the T.
Like, I know the saying is black don't crack, but I've seen black crack more than this. Like, he looks fucking like he's 79, and Samuel
He's
Jackson
pretty-
also looks good, but he's like 5 years younger, and he looks like he could play Ernie Hudson's dad.
Yeah. Or at least older brother.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
He puts Paul Rudd to shame.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, and then that's saying something for sure. Yeah, but that's why when you even put him next, especially Bill Murray, you're like, baby. You know, I mean, time was definitely not as kind.
Well,
I don't want to shame anybody, obviously, but just on that, very basic. He's held up the test of time very well.
Especially Glenn Murray. In contrast to Dan Aykroyd, who I think has aged exactly how you think a 7-year-old would look.
Yeah. By the way, we should run by Scott our weird idea for the sitcom that we have.
Oh yeah,
I think that would be really good.
A Dan Aykroyd is Ray Stantz sitcom, where it's him running the bookstore, and it's like Frasier.
a CBS half hour.
Yeah,
totally like a Frasier type. And and he's just in there, and then everybody comes through randomly. You get those like cliche like big applause as the big the act comes on. Whoever the big talent of the week is.
Would ghosts be characters and like?
I think so. Yeah, somewhat.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. He probably has like some sort of puppeteer side thing that he can go to.
Yeah.
Just as like the bit, and then a lot of it is talking about the lore. He does his skewing at least. And that's the Frasier comparison where Frasier will go off on his tangents. That'll be Dan Aykroyd with a gobbledygook.
Yeah.
And it'll be brilliant.
And Ernie
By the
Hudson.
way, if you're seeing this, do not. This is marked out. It's our idea.
Copyright.
Bring us in.
100%.
Yeah, copyright.
Yeah.
Ernie,
like, we will.
Ernie Hudson also in the cast. He shows up. He's very concerned and stuff. They like call him in to consult on stuff. I would keep James Acaster, who's a great British comedian.
Yeah. That was a good call with that
new movie. And I don't mind the actor who plays Podcast also.
No, it'd be great because that's the whole like mentor mentee. It's the perfect side. There was a show called Superior Donuts that came out recently. That's kind of what was reminding me of it too. The dynamic of like he's running a donut shop and has like the people who aren't meant to be together end up being working together and becoming buddies, and it just would work in that context of he adds the youth and could bring in some of his buddies, and you have that whole integration with characters and just centered around the shop.
I also finally finished the first season of Poker Face, which is fucking great.
Nice.
The Ryan Johnson, Natasha Lyonne show from last year. Huge recommendation for that. I watched Echo, the MCU show, which was fine, and I've been watching with Celeste.
I forgot it even opened. I'm glad that you actually said that fine is fine.
Yeah,
I forgot it existed.
I've been watching with Celeste X-Men 97, which is
Mamma
mia.
Nice.
That's the good stuff.
Nice.
Fucking real good.
Yeah.
I haven't. I have to. You guys are both making a lot of sound, so it sounds like I have to watch them.
Highest recommendation.
Especially if you liked the original cartoon. I gotta say, we can talk about it more later. I don't want to get into spoilers, but really been enjoying it so far. In fact, a new episode dropped today, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're Wednesdays.
I gotta check that out. I've been watching that, and because I never got around to it, I'll watch that and then an episode of What If season 2.
Me and Celeste have been alternating those when we've been hanging out online.
I've seen the first 2 episodes. I dug it. I especially like the Nebula episode.
Yeah. I wish those. I feel like that show gets better as it goes because like the tone of What If is really geared towards like the bullshit kind of goofy fan servicey stuff, and so when it gets into that stuff, I like it more. To be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, I would say I feel like we've watched like 4 episodes of that so far, and I would say each episode is probably better than the last, which is nice for a viewer, but it's also one of those things where you're like, why the fuck did they drop this like this? Where they're like putting their not as good episodes at the top. But
sure.
Because I do like that Nebula episode, but I also hate every time the Nebula episode has to be like, oh, well, it's also a goofy comedy, and so we have to have a goofy comedy beat. And I'm like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need a goofy comedy beat in this.
Yeah.
We could do without that in this one.
It could just be a detective story. Yeah.
But it is good. And but X-Men 97 is just like,
oh yeah,
I gotta definitely give it a go.
Is legit and and elevated in a way from the old show too. Where it's like they're clearly aiming it at the people who like the old show and have grown up now.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that it's only 8 episodes.
Yeah,
honestly, like,
I'm sure that's just to build out if it's worth putting money into. I mean, if they know they can really bank on it, you know.
I think they've talked about they're already working on like a second and third season. So
I think the second season has been written and like in production.
Mm.
Yeah. We're definitely going to see
who does them? Like, what studio is doing the animation and stuff? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, to be honest. But yeah.
I've been I know, and we're going to do this on Sunday, but you know, we've been watching the Omen movies. That's happening.
Yeah,
those are some movies to watch. I'm excited for the new one. I think I hope it's what it sounds like it's going to be. But other than that, I am, and by that I mean like actually scary and really creative and good, and not in the way Immaculate was, which I'm going to say is it's great fun for a little bit, but it's not, as somebody. Big horror fans know that we need a little bit more, so I'm kind of hoping we get a little of that with the Omen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm really stoked for the first Omen, I should say, obviously. Otherwise, I'm really stoked for Civil War. I am a huge Alex Garland fan. I've loved everything he's done since writing 28 Days Later and on. And I'm going to rewatch Debs. I think I'm going to start that tonight. It's one I watched when it first came around. I thought it was really, really brilliant. A lot of the similar actors that are going to be in, a lot of some of the same that are going to be in Civil War, like Haley Spaney and Nick Offerman, obviously, and then Stephen McKinley. He's really good in Devs too, and then Jeff Barrow and Ben Salisbury, who score everything as recent since like the Ex Machina era on that Alex Garland has done, and they add such a vibe to this stuff, so it's really worth checking out. It's on Hulu, Fox, FX, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm sure. I hope.
I'm excited for that. I know upcoming, just for people who want to know, next week we're gonna do a kind of late considering, but satanic Easter episode about Immaculate and the first Omen.
Look, it's never too late for Satan.
And then I know we kind of did a couple of these with Oscar season, and you can't really do that in the same way now, but we're gonna do kind of a catch-all episode. I think specifically talking about Love Lies Bleeding, Civil War, and Challengers. Pretty soon.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to have a lot to talk about with Love Lies Bleeding. You know, it's a movie that I'm very passive on.
And I know we're also gonna do. I think we're gonna do a Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy episode because it's getting the re-release.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
And the next Twin Peaks episode will be about the next 5 episodes 12 through 16, aka episodes 5 through 9 of season 2, aka the end of the first era of Twin Peaks. Spoilers, but you find out who did the killing, and then that killer also goes away and isn't an issue anymore.
And then I think we all, our pal Ann just sent us a text that we have this to look forward to as well. But Alien is going to be back in theaters, and I believe Dolby as well. You get to see that beautiful thing. It's for the 45th anniversary. Hell yeah!
And I just want to say thanks to Brian here for composing our outro, and follow us on TikTok and before they ban it, and Instagram, CinemaCurse666. And share this with your local sheriff. Go up to your local sheriff's department and be like, you got to see this.
Totally.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks you guys for joining. It's
thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.